I'm Diana Doggett, the Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Agent in Fayette County. It is my pleasure to introduce Rita Hardman, the Bluegrass Area Extension Homemaker International Chairman. Rita is spearheading an Extension Homemaker clothing project in partnership with Blessed Kentuckiana. This clothing project will be distributed globally by Operation International, a nonprofit medical organization. Take it away, Rita.
I'm Rita Hardman in Fayette County, and I am wanting to show you some new ideas that have come from the dresses and clothing that we have made and to send to Africa. And we found that some things are not as appropriate for the children as what we thought, but we needed that person that was the contact to tell us what is needed and get it to the sources. So this is my attempt to get that started. First of all, I want to show you this little girl. This came to us actually from Africa. And when you look at the little girl, you can tell that her dress is dirty. And they may not wash clothes like we do, or may not even do it for a long period of time. And they will sleep and play, and it's their only item of clothing. We can also see that the little girl has pulled on the front, and that's very typical of American children are always pulling on their dresses. And so we know that that seam needs to be very secure. And then we also see that the neck does not fit her body. And so there is a way that we can do that. Now, when we were doing pillowcase dresses years ago, they were straight, and the children did not get to run and play in those. There just wasn't enough span for their legs. And then, and we know from how dirty and soiled this is that the dresses need to be in colors that will disguise some of that. So most pillowcases are white or light colors, and they're not print, and so we're trying to, do different with that. Then when we were doing the t-shirt dresses, the report came back that the children were always pulling on their neck. They did not like that band up at their neck. And so we've altered that idea, and hopefully have come up with something that you will enjoy seeing and doing. Now this little dress is a typical dress that we're making now, and you can see that the neck is elastic, and it's not way up at the neck, it's a little lower than that. And then the what we would call the waistband is higher, but it would fit any child. And then we have little sleeves that will protect them from the sun. And the length of the skirt is longer than what I would have thought it needed to be. And it's fuller. And so 45 inches we would think is okay, but it's not. They need it wider than that. And so about 10 or 12 inches additional panel makes it really nice for them. And I'll talk about it again, but if you can notice right here that I've put a decorative stitch around that waist, and that's securing that so that when they pull on it, it doesn't pull too bad. And then here's another little dress, and you know, I try to make every single dress different. In some way, it's different. But this little dress, when you turn it around, it is a totally different look on the other side. And then this shows you where that panel that I was talking about can be another fabric or the same fabric, but here you can really see it. Now, this pattern, the front and the back are identical, and even on the t-shirt dresses, there was definitely a front and a back. But on these, it's all the same. And so if this is the only dress this little girl has, this one is actually made so that she has two dresses in one. And that's the panel. Now, this little dress they're all pretty much the same, but yet they can look so different. And this one just has some braid added to it just because somebody gave it to me, and there it was. It fit just fine with that. Now I'm going to start explaining to you about the pattern. And you've not very often seen a pattern where it's all numbers. But I'm going to explain this to you so that you can see that. Now, I've made my dresses a size 5, and so the chart has a size 5. And then it says for the bodice piece to cut it 7 1/4 by 14. That's 7 1/4 by 14. So it's a rectangle that you cut. And then you have a page that you've accessed that has these funny looking cutouts. And so I made a master of the size 5 right there. And then it will go right up in the corner, and that's your cutout for the bodice. Now you've got one side here, and then you use the same over here. Now you've made you a master copy for your sewing purposes, and it's a size 5. Now if you label all of these pieces, then you're going to be all set to do any size you want. Now, this same 5 goes to the sleeve, and it's a rectangle also. But our pattern will tell us that it's 9 inches by 16. So that's what we've got here. Then it's the same piece becomes the cutout for the sleeve. Flip it over, and it's the cutout for the sleeve. And now you have a master. When you start working with this, you can get the bodice and the sleeve mixed up because they are so close to the same size. See, there's a difference that you can see, and you can see the difference in the length. So the sleeve is the bigger piece. Now you and I might think that it's just the opposite, but that's not the way this is. Front and the back. Then this is the sleeve, and so if the fabrics are different color, it's less chance of making a mistake. But what I suggest is when you cut out the sleeve, you put a safety pin in each sleeve, just anywhere, just to label it. Because when I am cutting one that is sleeve and bodice, you can see how you can easily get these switched. So if this has a safety pin in it, you are secured in knowing that you're going to get it right. So when I put these together, I lay the bodice down first. Then I take a sleeve and lay it over it and put one pin right here. Then I take it and fold it, lay it down like that, and put the other bodice onto the other side of that sleeve. And if it just has one pin there, that'll keep it, and you'll know where you're going with this. Now the other sleeve is on the other side of the bodice, and then the other bodice. Now when you sew these, it's a bias through here, and to 1/4 of an inch is, I think, a little too tight. 5/8 is too much, so somewhere almost the side of that presser foot, your regular presser foot, will do it. But as I'm sewing it, I kind of pull that bias so I can sew straight. So if I do that, then I can do that one, then I can do that one, and then I can do that one, and I've done all 4 seams. Now when that is done, it looks strange. It lays out like that, and it's so easy to pick that up and say, sleeve, bodice, that's not right. It's the opposite. But if that's got a pin in it, you're gonna not mess that up. So the next thing will be to take the sleeve and fold it in half. And this will be just a straight seam down there. Then you do the other side. Put the sleeve together. The other will be right there. And you can put a pin there in the middle to hold those seams together, and then one can go one way and one the other. Then that says to you that you can at that point hem the sleeve, because this is seamed. So you turn the sleeve under 2 times and do just a small seam. No need to have 1 inch here. And then the next thing is to put the skirt on or put the elastic in the top. Since I've got the bodice right here, I'll show you on the elastic. Our master chart will go across and tell you what the elastic neck is, and it is 17.5 inches. So that's what I've cut, and then I overlap them 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Don't worry about it, just overlap it. and either zigzag that or straight stitch it, but double stitch it. And when you're done, pull on it and make sure that it has stayed, it looks very secure. If this ever comes apart on the child, they have no way of fixing it. And then this is turned under just a little bit, 1/4 of an inch, and then the elastic is going to go in there and you'll sew right below that elastic. Now we'll move over to the sewing machine and I'll actually do one. But I showed you how to put the sleeve and the bodice together, and now I don't have to pin it if you're comfortable doing that. Now when I lay the sleeve and the bodice together, they don't look like they fit exactly, but I pull it over until they match up in my hand, and then I am pulling on that bias and making it go in. Now, how simple is that? Now I back stitch just one stitch, and then I go right over to my next pin that I put it just at the top and go right on and put my ends together, lay it on there and stretch it to make that bias fit in there. Now I could have pins the whole distance here, but I don't want to do that, especially with me making a whole bunch. So I go right over to the next pin, and I'm making them all from the top. Good thing to watch, check on the other side when you get through and make sure that nothing is slipped out for these little children, that everything is secured in there. I don't want anything that's just barely caught in that seam. I want it in there good. I want this little girl to be wearing this dress until she outgrows it, and then she can pass it on to somebody else and it'll still have some life left in it. So then I can go and cut the threads. If you all had never seen anybody do that. All right, now we've got this little bodice on top the way you saw me have the other one. Then I can put the sleeve right in, and I'm sewing up this underarm seam. Now I like it if when I get to that underarm seam, if you saw me, I back tacked just barely, because why not? Just to secure it for them. Now another thing that we have discovered is that if we leave any threads hanging around, that we will pull on that loose thread. Well, if these children do that and it comes apart, well, goodness gracious, they don't have anybody that can sew this up for them. So, did you see me go backwards just a little bit, and I do it down there. Now, the next thing is the sleeve could be hemmed. And, you can open up that seam. I don't use the iron. I've got people that just think that if you don't use an iron, you can't do anything. Well, I'm just the opposite. So I would not even pin that. I would just stitch it. Now, I want to, at this point, show you how to do the elastic. Now, when you hold that up, I don't know if you can see, but you can immediately see that this is going to be at your waist and this is your neck. Now, I had my elastic already sewed together. Now, this could be iron, but I just finger press it. And then put the elastic there and fold it down on it. Now, I can feel that the elastic is ending right there. And I want to sew right on the edge, and I want to be able to feel that elastic. Now, if I've caught the elastic, it's not going to slide through, and that's pretty easy to fix, but you don't want to have to do that if you can avoid it. Now, I'm only gonna do, okay, now I feel that the elastic is twisted. There it is. Now, when I'm going across that seam, just make sure that you're still not touching your needle to the elastic. And I can see that I've got extra threads here. Well, if they can be pushed up inside, that's good. Now, I can make it about halfway around like this. See where I'm getting it's smaller there? And let me make this a little bit more. Whoops. And then I'm going to show you what I have to do next. Okay, leave your needle down. And where is all of it? I think I may have to turn it, or if I don't know. Anyway, now when I do this, moving that fabric, look right there, see it's not caught? Well, I can go back and fix that. That's no problem. But I can, if my needle has caught the elastic, it won't do this. But now look how much elastic I have now, and I will get as far as another fourth of the top. And then I'm gonna, now I am feeling that elastic so that I know that it's in there and all is well. Now see, I'm about there again, so I've got all this space over here that I can move my fabric on that elastic. Keep it going, and then I keep this up until I've made it all the way, and the top will be done. when I'm coming to your, wherever you are and teaching this class, at first, oh, I can feel that it's caught. Did you see that? See, when I push, it doesn't, it's stuck. So right in there, I'm gonna have to find where it has caught my elastic, but I think I can get it all the way. But I'm glad it did that so I could show you. I'm almost there. Whoop, whoop. Now when I get to the end, back stitch it. And then make sure that you've cut off all of these little threads. Move on to the skirt. Now if you go to your master chart again, it will tell you the skirt with no ruffle. Well, I don't fool with ruffles unless I don't have enough fabric to get my length. But anyway, here is your length that you're going to need, and a size 5 is 19, that's 19 inches long by 56 inches wide. Well, that tells you at 56 that you've already gone beyond 45. And to simplify my cutting, I can go up on my sizes, but I can't go down. So that 19 inches, I go on and make it 20. And then the 56, I go on and make it 60, because I've gone up on my numbers. So it's real easy for me to cut these in, bukus of them. And so mine are 20 by 60. Now that is going to be what this is. Now this one was cut, I do 30 inches and another 30 inches to get 60. So I've got 60 wide. And I got 19 or 20 length, and then I seam this side seam and do a zigzag on the edge or serge it or whatever. But anyway, I don't want to leave raw edges. And then at that point, I have to, according to the fabric, I've got to make sure that I don't have, well, let's say bunnies going up instead of down. And I do have a skirt that's that way. I figure the child, enjoys looking at the bunny, looking at them. So, but anyway, the hem is turned under a fourth and then turned under a fourth or thereabouts. I don't fool with putting an inch hem in it, and everything is machined. And let me get one of these. Okay. There's one that is done with just a straight stitch and turned under. So it's got a double turn under and no raw edges. And then my seams that I do are serged, but I can just do that so quick. Now the skirt up here at the waist, that can either be gathered or pleated. Let me get this. When I do all of mine pleats. It just seems easiest for me. but I take this piece and divide it into fourths, the skirt into fourths. Then I take the bodice piece and I divide it in fourths, because you've already got this side seam. And then I put a pin for the front and back. And then put those together, and then that becomes my TV job. And I can do a whole bunch of them at that point and just sit down and pin each pleat. And the pleats do not need to be, don't need to concern yourself with it has to be an inch, it has to be an inch and a half or whatever. You just got to get from point A to point B filled in. And it doesn't matter if it's a little bit or a big amount, it just always looks good. But anyway, that's how we do the skirt. Now, we'll move over to the sewing machine and I'll actually do one. Get the skirt added on. Now, if the skirt has one of those panels in it, then I want to make sure that that panel ends up in the center front. But on this one, I've only got one seam, and I want to make sure that the seam is at the side seam. I wouldn't want that seam to be going straight down the center front or the center back. And then I can just go to the next pin and put those together. So I think you can probably see how that goes. Now, I know that between here and here, I've got to get these to join. And somehow, I just use my thumb. And I have to put a pin in each pleat, go to the next, and put another pleat, no measuring. Just kind of do it where you think it might look good. And I can't tell you exactly what size it is, and I don't want you to fool with even thinking about that. Now, when I have made about, maybe 4 of these pleats, then go to your pin and go back the other way and get the pleats all going in the same direction. That'll make it a lot easier to sew it. And then you can see that I've got from there to there with that much. And I can just fold that over. And it doesn't look like the others, but it's good enough. Now I'm going to hold it up and let you see.
There you go.
See that? Now I do that all 4 sections, just a section at a time. Then I take it to the sewing machine and stitch it with the pleats on the top so I can watch that they have laid. And I can feel on the back that that is going in good. And I sew the skirt on with that same, see the side of my presser foot? That's what I'm using as my guide. And I don't recommend going over the pins unless you're desperate. You know, desperate times. Just call for desperate measures. Okay. Now, that would be 1/4 of it. If I wanted to, I could stop at that point, pin another 1/4, or pin the whole thing. But isn't that nice? It works in. And when I flip it over, this one has the selvage at the bottom. See? There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, and you can't look at that and tell that I did not measure and get each one of those just exactly right. There's very few dresses that I have cut where the bodice and the skirt are the same, but if you put rickrack across that, it looks really cute. One dress I saw was all the same color, and I told her if she put red or yellow or green rickrack on that, and the wider rickrack, that it just spiffs it up. Now, because we've got this connection with the lady out of Louisville, her name is Peg.weedman, and now when the dresses are going to Africa with Doctors Without Borders, they're getting to Peg in Louisville, and then she takes care of it from there. When she liked the little shorts I was doing, but she said they're little enough, but they need to be longer. And so, because these children grow up, they don't grow out. So this is what I was making before. This is now the pattern we're using, and I'll put them up here side by side, and you can see the difference that I'm making them about 2 inches longer. The width I kept the same, and the elastic is the same. Now, the pattern for the shorts is available on our website. I hope that you will enjoy making them as much as I, and that it will serve you, and you'll be surprised when you start doing them and showing others how to do it. Somebody will invariably say, "Oh, I was needing a purpose." Whatever the circumstances, I just need a purpose. And so this is just perfect. They can use their own fabrics. People have donated fabric to me, and that's what I've used. Now, my purpose has been to not buy any fabric. It's all been donated or used from my stash, and I'm just thrilled to death to know that my children are not going to sell it at a garage sale for $1. So it's already been made into something. It's already gone to a good use, and wherever that might be. It's just a continuation of what can be done for the international children. The t-shirt dresses, just start with this, but since we're talking about what they want us to think about what the children's needs, which I would have never thought about, is that they say that the children, they're always seeing them pulling on their dresses because of the t-shirt, and they're not used to something up here near their neck. So I thought about that idea, and I thought, well, what can be done here to convert it to what the idea is now? And one of the first things I did was cut the t-shirt off 2.5 to 3 inches below the arm hole, and that brings it up to where the little skirts can go on it at that level. So then you can see that I put a serging stitch around it, but I did one where I just did a straight stitch, but it does need some kind of a stay stitching on that knit. And then I went to the neck to see what could be done here. Now they have said to stay with little size t-shirts, and so I purchased extra small or small, and when I held up the medium, I think it was too big to really turn out looking cute. But when I cut the neck, I'm going to do it in a different color so you can see. I cut it, can you see it? I cut it right at the base of the band, but I cut it through both layers, and that meant that when I cut it off, the back was the same as the front. And we've talked about the dresses being reversible. Well, this makes the dress reversible by lowering the neck in the front and the back. So then we get this kind of thing, and you need to put some kind of a stay stitching around that opening. And then you can just take the same measurements for putting the elastic in it, and if it's a regular stay stitch, then you want to turn it 2 times with that elastic in it. But with a serging stitch, potentially you just want 1. So anyway, this is what you end up with the neck with the elastic in it. And then I put the same skirt on it as with the cotton dresses, and did the same pleating, and that's what it looks like. But then when you put this additional stitching, decorative stitch on it to reinforce all of that, then that just makes all of that just so pretty. And then your length measurement should be about the same as what we did with the other dresses. So this is just what you end up with. But the t-shirts cut up high allows them to just have more freedom, and then we have the same width in the skirts as the others. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that's a new method. Well, it's not new, but anyway, now the part that you end up cutting off of the t-shirt is like that, and so there's a design opportunity in there if you can come up with it. I've heard of making face masks out of these pieces that are left. But anyway, I just wanted to add that to your repertoire of what we can do for international children.
Thanks, Rita, for sharing your sewing expertise. More information about this international sewing project, as well as the pattern and sewing guide, can be found in the description below. Happy sewing!